Hello from Munich, Germany, and welcome to a special edition of GZERO World. I'm Ian Bremmer, and today I'm coming to you from the 56th Annual Munich Security Conference, where some 35 heads of state are among the more than 500 political leaders who've descended on the land of beer and bratwurst to discuss the most pressing concerns about our collective security. Don't worry, it's not all bombs and rockets. I've also got your puppet regime.
We're here with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Willkommen.
The Munich Security Conference is a very special event in the world of foreign policy. It's a place where you can find a younger think tank person sitting down with a minister of foreign affairs or asking her first question to a president or a head of state. We need those kinds of places in a very fractured GZERO world.
Und unser engster Verbündeter, die Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika, erteilt unter der jetzigen Regierung selbst der Idee einer internationalen Gemeinschaft.
The death of the transatlantic alliance is grossly over-exaggerated. We are collectively winning.
Will China be able to contain the coronavirus?
所有这些对中国的指责都是谎言。
We must defend our democratic values and our commitment to multilateralism, which is essential to our success.
The dominating topic this year, the outbreak of coronavirus and the first confirmed death outside Asia. It was the subject of several of our conversations.
France just reported the first death of a coronavirus case. Should Europeans be concerned?
Well, I think everybody in the world needs to be concerned because it is clearly carries extraordinary risks unless there is a very major effort to contain it and to deal with it, which obviously was most critical in the very beginning. And now it's moved to enough places that I think there are serious concerns. I'm hearing that from various health professionals. I don't yet know that anybody is clear about exactly how to quantify that.
And I'm here with Professor Henry Wang, who is founder and president of the Center for China and Globalization in Beijing, also a senior advisor to the Chinese government. Great to be with you here at the Munich Security Conference.
Thank you, Ian. Yes.
What do you think the international reaction in general, both American and global, to the coronavirus has been? I mean, there has been some criticism with the initial shutdown of some of the flights, direct flights to China. Obviously, the information has been, in some cases, spotty.
Yeah. I think it's an understandable process. Since the beginning, was a lot of people worry, a lot of people don't know what's the cause of it and how quickly it gets spread. But now it seems that I think it's fairly under control. It's in China, except at the epicenter of Wuhan, the rest of the country is declining, the new cases. And also the cure cases is increasing now. There's almost 7,000 cases being cured. And also the death rate is also not high as SARS. I mean, it's only 2% probably according to the WHO. So I think, it's probably like a very informative process going on as people know more about it, as people are more aware of it, and also knows how to protect that. I think things should be gradually under control. But also this thing is very strange that normally goes with the weather. I mean, like SARS, it also started in November, December, and then by the next year in the springtime when weather gets hot, it also a situation gets better. So I think there's things can be done.
So one of the most disturbing pieces of news around expansion of coronavirus has been some of these first responders. I mean, of course, we know that the doctor that originally blew the whistle on the coronavirus and was reprimanded for it, ended up dying from it. But now some 1,500 early responders have themselves caught coronavirus, in part because they haven't been as well taken care of as they needed to. How is the Chinese government going to respond to this? Clearly, it's a problem.
Yeah, I think there are some reasons to probably causes that. Because first, when this the virus broke out, people have no lack of knowledge, even medical staff. So there's quite a bit of interaction there, and that probably gets some people infected. Second is that the protective equipment is not enough, like the mask, the clothes. Those are not in good supply. China was on spring Chinese New Year holiday. There was no supply, and then there was a lack of those kind of protective equipment. That caused some of that. But I think now, as China goes back to work, and then international also support comes in, we have a lot of countries donating, medical equipment and all those things. That's really helped. So I think this number should cut down.
Now, one major concern that's kind of all around this conference right now is coronavirus. And I'm wondering, I know it's still early days, I wish that weren't the case, but how do you see the effects on the global economy so far?
Well, so far, what one sees is that production in China is down. We don't know how quickly production will go back online. We know that we live in a very integrated global economy in which China is a critical part of the supply chain. And if China is down even for a few weeks, it has repercussions, and we've seen a few of those repercussions. But if this virus grows and China's production lines are down for much longer, it will have repercussions throughout the world for the global economy.
And the CEOs you're talking to here, how high is that prioritized on their sort of general raft of concerns?
Well, I think what it does is there's a lot of uncertainty caused by Trump's trade policy. A lot of discussion in the panel I was on and how Trump's trade wars have just elevated uncertainty and is the major contributor to the slowdown in the global economy. 2019 was not a good year. And what one sees this is another level of uncertainty added to a whole host of uncertainty.
So before we go, let me at least ask you a little bit about your view of the U.S. economy. Of course, one of the reasons Trump is doing comparatively well in the polls right now, in the context of the last 3 years, is a view that the U.S. economy is pretty robust. How aligned are you with that?
Not very aligned. I don't think the U.S. economy is really strong in a sustainable way. A lot of discussion about the low unemployment rate. If you look at the numbers, the pace of job creation is slower than it was during Obama's second. A little bit.
Yeah.
The growth rate is remarkably slow given that the level of stimulus from near zero interest rates and a $1 trillion deficit. We've never had a deficit of that magnitude in a period of close to full employment, non-recession, non-war. And the projections of where this is leading is, deficits growing and the national debt as a percentage of GDP growing remarkably. So what is really striking is that in a tax cut for the billionaires and for corporations with a tax increase for a majority of Americans was supposed to stimulate investment. Didn't do it. Investment is down. Where the money went were massive share buybacks, again, almost $1 trillion. So to me, when I see what has happened, it seems to me that given what we've done, we're putting the future in jeopardy for almost no benefit.
There were more traditional geopolitical conversations, too, about the relevance of NATO and curbing nuclear weapons production. Ivo Daalder, President of the Chicago Council of Global Affairs, here in Munich as we see each other every year. Good to be with you, man.
It's great to be here. It's always fun. I call this the Academy Awards for policy wonks.
Yeah, I know.
That's what it is.
And we could win a couple this year.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know. But NATO's not winning any this year.
No, NATO's not doing as well as it used to.
Look, it's one thing that Trump originally said that it was obsolete, and then when he became president, he said, actually, I was mistaken. It's not obsolete. It's not literally falling apart, and yet you feel like there's no mission There's no there. How does NATO feel to you?
So
today?
I think it's really playing out on two different levels. At one level, because of what the Russians did in Ukraine, there's more concern about a security situation that really didn't exist. When I was there in 09 or 13, we weren't worried about security in Europe. Now, people are worried about security in Europe for good reason. And NATO has actually done a whole bunch of things. They put more forces in Eastern Europe. They put them in the Baltic states. They've increased their sea and air patrol in the Black Sea.
So we objectively look more robust in the region vis-a-vis the Russians.
Vis-a-vis the Russians and vis-a-vis our allies who actually take it more seriously. So that's one part. The drama, which is the political part, and that is also important. It's not just how capable you are, but how credible you are. That drama is really changed NATO in a very fundamental way. And the president's made clear that he looks at alliances purely in a transactional way, is what is in it for me. NATO isn't seen by him as contributing to safety, security, stability here in Europe. It's about money. And many of the Europeans are saying, it isn't about money, it's about more, it's about safety and security. And can we really survive strategically without the United States? That debate is now happening.
And the safety and security that it's about, Ukraine wasn't about tanks coming across the border, it was information warfare. NATO's not really well structured to handle that.
No, they're not really well structured to deal with hybrid warfare. They're getting better. They're not really well structured to deal with new threats, whether it's from terrorism or, frankly, from China and the degree to which China is penetrating in Europe and deeply dividing Europeans among themselves. It's not really structured as an organization to deal with the challenges of the 21st century. It could, because one way in which you deal with those challenges is to have better partnerships and closer cooperation, but not just in the military field, which is what NATO still has done up to this point.
The nuclear risk situation today, I hate to say, is not good. I and former Senator Nunn and I have written that the risk of a nuclear weapon being used somewhere today in the world is probably higher than any time since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Several things drive that. First, you have the U.S.-Russia situation where the tensions are very high and discussions have really broken down to a large extent, even worse than they were during the Cold War. Today, one of the crucial decisions that must be taken in the nuclear nonproliferation world is the extension of the New START Treaty. The New START Treaty is very important in the sense that it both constrains the number of weapons and delivery systems of the United States and Russia, which together have over 90% of the world's weapons, but also, something less well known, has important verification measures where both countries can conduct inspections to make sure that we are both, in fact, adhering to the treaty. Now, today, we see the treaty will expire 2 weeks into the next presidential administration, unless it is extended, which requires nothing more than the two presidents, Trump and Putin, to in fact initial or sign the agreement to extend.
Westlessness was the theme, and with Pakistan's former Foreign Minister Hina Kar, we looked to the east and rising tensions with India. Now, there is a big fight with the Indians, of course, right now, without any question. A shift of Prime Minister Modi, less focus on economic reform, more on Hindu nationalism, obviously a big fight over Kashmir, as well as changes in citizenship law and the rest. How have the Pakistanis been responding to that? How dangerous do you actually think this relationship is and could become?
Okay, I think the shift in India is irretrievably dangerous. What it means is that it's not short-term dangerous, medium-term dangerous. It is going to create a whole dynamic which we will not be able to reverse. You may know that Pakistan, together with India and all of South Asia, happens to be one of the least integrated areas in all of the world. The African Union does better than SAARC, which is the South Asian regional cooperation.
In terms of international trade in the region, for example.
Yes, in terms of regional integration, trade within the region, etc., etc. Now, when you take that forward, India is now becoming the bully for the entire region and is actually going against every international commitment and, frankly speaking, regional commitments and bilateral commitments it made to Pakistan by what it did in Kashmir. Now, when you do all of that, what do you become? You become a rogue state. Now, how difficult it is for a country like Pakistan, which is...
So the former Pakistani foreign minister is saying that the Indians presently are a rogue state under Modi.
Absolutely saying that they are a rogue state, not only internationally or regionally, but even to their own people, because the state is known by its commitments to its own people and to the world and to the region. If a state renegades on all the commitments it makes, then it becomes a rogue state.
Sure.
There are currently some more than 5 or, many Security Council resolutions which exist on how India and Pakistan are going to act in trying to resolve the Kashmir issue.
Right.
Now, if one country decides to throw all of that in the dustbin, including the bilateral commitments that it had with Pakistan, which is in the form of Simla Agreement, and the commitments it had to what it calls its own citizens, to throw it all in the dustbin and decides to act because no one can come and
do anything about it.
Then
and it's an enormously popular policy,
absolutely.
both domestically and among Indians abroad.
Exactly, and that's the dangerous part, Ian, because all over the world, we're seeing this in the US, we're seeing this in the UK, we're seeing it in Austria perhaps also, but certainly in India, that leaders whose populism is based on doing what is not right for the country are getting voted in. As they get voted in on the basis of that popular vote, which is not perhaps good for the country, they still take their country in directions which are not good for it. Now, what is happening in India...
It's based on tribalism, effectively,
absolutely,
right?
Based on division, based on fear. You know the quote of Franklin Roosevelt, that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, right? Currently, fear is being sold very well by all of these extremist type of populist leaders all over the world, India being no exception.
And do you think that that's going to lead to similar political developments in Pakistan?
Well, I think in Pakistan also, I'm not very fond of how the Prime Minister has been very divisive. I think by and large, there has been a lot of political maturity that has been shown by the opposition parties, and those are things that we have learned over the decades. And we hope that this political maturity that is shown by the opposition parties will have an impact on the government, and perhaps we'll be able to meander through these very difficult times. Globally, I think there are difficult times, regionally difficult times, even for Pakistan, economically, within the region. It's not a happy place to be in right now.
And now, I've got your puppet regime.
Greetings all. We're here with German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Willkommen. Okay, so to help our viewers get to know you a little better, let's do some German-English word association. I'll say a word, and you tell us what first pops into your head, okay?
Ja, okay.
Schadenfreude.
Brexit.
Wunderkind.
Emmanuel Macron.
Volkswagen.
I knew nothing about this. Enough.
Not so much Farfignugan anymore, no, okay. Next one. Zeitgeist.
I'm here, everybody. Hello. You began too early, okay? Disgraceful. What did you miss?
Trump?
Der Trump.
Now it gets interesting. Let's try Bildungsroman.
Please, nobody knows more about buildings than I do, Ian. That I can tell you.
Okay, last one, and it's a biggie. Vergangenheitsbewältigung.
Barack
Hussein.
Obama.
Wunderbar! Nothing brings people together like...
That's it for the show this week from beautiful Munich, Germany. I'll be back next week, but if you like what you see, and I know you have, check us out at gzeromedia.com. And as they say in Munich, auf Wiedersehen.